Coming to you live from the Mile High City, right here in Denver, Colorado. You're in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening. It's Friday. It's Fade the Public Friday Day. That's what's referred to as in gambling circles. So, welcome to the show. We're coming to you live, like I said, from Denver, Colorado, right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as podcasting on most of your major podcast platforms such as Apple Podcasts or Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google. We're everywhere we can get a hold of. So we're also on milehighradio.com. Also, if you want to look at it on your computer, that's more accessible to you than the telephone, just go to milehighradio.com or to the I-95 network.com. So that way you can listen to us whether it's on your phone or it's on your computer. We're here to try to help you get things done and, of course, get some information out to you. Today we're going to be talking about primarily football, not only NFL football, but college football, because the college football season starts kind of this weekend, this Saturday. But, of course, we have NFL action coming up for you today. Now, we have no baseball games to talk about. None of the games seem to fit into any patterns that we could kind of tell you about. And like I said, we're always here trying to let you know that we're committed to accountability. So, we're not going to just throw a game out for you just to throw it out for you and say, hey, look, you got another game. No, that's not what we do here. We analyze, we see what we can do. We try to make it as well as possible for you to try to be a winner at the end of the season, at the end of each week, if we possibly can. Well, anyway, that's the story. We're not going to have any baseball, but we are having 3 games to talk about as far as the preseason is concerned. We're going to be talking about the Colts and the Lions, the Eagles and the Jets, the Steelers and the Panthers. We're going to take a close-up and personal look at those 3 games, kind of give you an idea as to which direction the money line is flowing, which direction the line movement is going, and, of course, then we can help you determine in which direction the pros are going as well. But as usual, the first thing we do, if you listened to the show before, the first thing we do is we kind of take a look at what happened yesterday as far as major sports are concerned and as far as gambling is concerned within that sport. There's only one that's really active right now because it's baseball. That was yesterday. Today, of course, you can have baseball, football, and all kinds of things going on. So anyway, the Orioles, as a pick'em, beat the Angels 13-1. And if you're ever involved in the winning and losing streaks that we talked about months ago, try to bring you into the fold, could give you some thoughts and ideas on how to work with that, although we haven't talked about it lately because, we're getting ready for football, and this is just one of those things at this time of the year where it's much more difficult to try to come out ahead. But yesterday, because the Orioles did finally win, okay, they had a 19-game losing streak and finally came to an end on Wednesday, and then when that happened, it went into what we call the swagger theory of winning and losing streaks. The swagger theory basically says that if a team is coming off of a losing streak or a winning streak and they win or lose finally, okay, the next game they usually come back and win as well. So the Orioles on Wednesday stopped their 19-game losing streak, and then yesterday they became a swagger theory spot as well. And of course, they did cover 13-1. So if you were doing it yesterday, you're definitely ahead in that particular situation. Otherwise, the Reds and the Brewers also closed as a pick'em. The favorites were 7-3 in other games throughout the league. The favorites are still at 59.5% so far this season as far as a win percentage is concerned. And if you look at the month of August, 66% win percentage in the month of August. So the month is quickly coming to an end. We'll keep a record of it, kind of give you an idea as to how it's doing. And of course, the little system or method that we've been using since the beginning of the season, and we've used it in other seasons as well, but it just has to do with following the line movement, and whichever way the pros seem to be going, that's the direction that we tell you about that they're going, and then we leave it up to you to decide whether you want to go with them or you want to go against them. So yesterday there were 3 plays. We had the Giants against the Mets, and that was a winner. They had the A's against the Yankees, and they lost that one. The Yankees continue on this blistering win pace. And of course, if you're on the winning and losing streaks, if you were betting winning streaks as far as the Yankees were concerned, and if you picked it up after 6, which where we recommend, you'd be in very, very good shape right now as far as money is concerned. Also, one other game, Kansas City against Seattle. The pros had Seattle. That was a loser as well. So we had 3 plays yesterday. 2 of them were losers. 1 was a winner. And what happened was that dropped the percentage down to 58.5% for the month of August. So far in August, we have had 70 plays, 41 wins. That comes out to 58.5%. And just to give you an idea, the day before, we had 3 plays, 2 winners and 1 loser. The day before that, we had 3 plays. We had 2 winners and 1 loser in that one as well. And then take it one step further back, we had 2 plays and they were both losers. So kind of give you an idea as to how it kind of fluctuates up and down, because right now we're still at 58.5%. But of course, it's nowhere near the 68, 69 that we were a week ago. But that's the way it goes. It kind of levels itself off, and that's where the story is with baseball. So we have no games to talk about today as far as baseball is concerned. But like I said, we do have college football. We're going to be talking about the NFL games on tap for tonight. And as far as college football is concerned, we're going to take a look at a report from Chris Andrews from South Point over there. He's been a sports book director at South Point. He's been a bookmaker for over 30 years in Las Vegas. So, he knows what he's talking about. Every now and then he comes out with a little report, give you an update as to how they think, how the bookmakers are thinking about sports books, how they put things together. That's the reason why we let you know about it, kind of get his thinking involved, but also so that you can see the kind of thinking that goes into their end of trying to set lines as far as that's concerned. So we're going to take our first break. And again, like if you listened to the show before, we take 3 breaks in the show. Each one is of 1 minute duration. And of course, if that's the case, we'll be back in 1 minute. Oh, no. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you for listening. Coming to you live from the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado. Yes, we are. Like we said earlier, no baseball for today. None of the teams seem to fit into any of the categories for the pros to throw some money on them. So we're kind of leaning towards football for tonight. Some NFL preseason action with the Colts and Lions, Eagles and Jets, Steelers and Panthers. And just a reminder, once again, we're coming to you live from Denver, Colorado on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as podcasting on most of your major podcast platforms. platforms such as Apple, Google, Spotify, you name it. We're on just about everyone you could imagine. So it's Friday, and in the gambling world, we refer to Friday as Happy Fade the Public Friday. It goes back for many, many generations where Friday was the day that you bet against the public. Friday is usually from the old days, people would get paid on Friday. Maybe they didn't bet Monday through Thursday, or they didn't bet too much, but Friday came along, they had a pocket full of money, and they all started betting en masse. And because when that happens, as we know, the dogs come out barking, and that's the way we generally go. So it's Happy Fade the Public Friday. Today we have a loaded menu. So let's see where the money is flowing for the 3 games for tonight. At 7 o'clock, preseason NFL, Indianapolis Colts, 2-0 so far in the preseason, up against the Detroit Lions, who are just the opposite. They're 0-2. The Colts are undefeated. Like I said, they beat the Panthers 21-18 in the first game. They pushed as a 3-point home favorite in that game. And we say a team pushes or things of that nature. The numbers we're talking about are Las Vegas, because you may be listening to the show and say, push. Hey, I had the Panthers. I did well on that game, or I had the Colts, or whatever, And also, they beat the Vikings 12-10 last week. They won outright as a 1.5 road favorites and dogs. Meanwhile, the Lions, they've gone winless this preseason. They lost to the Bills 16-15. They lost straight up as 1.5-point home favorites. And then they dropped another game to the Steelers, 26-20. But they covered in that game. They were 7-point road dogs in that game. Now, tonight's line, well, it opened with Indianapolis, 4-point road favorite. The public is rushing to the windows to lay the points. They love the Colts. That's where they're going. However, just to let you know, despite all of this action, all these tickets coming in, all this support on the Indianapolis Colts, we've seen their number drop from being a 4-point to a 2-point favorite, and that's where it sits right now as we are on the air. We looked at it just before we came on. So what this means is that the pro money is buying in low on the Lions, and they're taking the points. Not only that, head coach Frank Reich is expected to rest most of the starters. Now, understand something. Preseason dogs with the line move in their favor are at 59%. Not only this year, last year, or the year before. We're going all the way back to 2014. So within this time period, 2014 to now, preseason dogs that do have a line movement in their favor, that's what the Lions have done in this game. They're at 59%. Now, we've also seen some pro money go on the over, driving the total up from 32.5 up to 33.5. So that's the story as far as the over-under is concerned. So, and also the head official, Alex Kemp, from a historical standpoint, he favors home teams, 59% against the spread. And in his games, they have overs at 55%. So it's just something else to kind of throw in there from an analytical standpoint. So the Lions are 0-2. Colts are 2-0. Last we've seen, the Colts are 2-point favorites. Pros are on the underdog in this particular game. Also at 7:30, you got the Philadelphia Eagles driving down to New York to play the New York Jets. The Eagles are 0-2. The Jets say they're 2-0 as well. So the Eagles have struggled really tough this season so far. They lost to the Steelers 24-16. They were a 1-point home favorite, and then they got really crushed by the Patriots 35-0 as a 1-point home favorite as well. Now they go to the Meadowlands. They beat they play the undefeated Jets. The Jets beat the Giants 12-7 as a 2.5-point home favorite. And then they beat the Packers last week 23-14. They covered in that game as 2.5-point road favorites. So tonight's line, well, it opened with New York listed as a 4-point home favorite. The wise guys, they're not going to outsmart themselves on this one. They're happy to bet against Philadelphia, and they like New York in this game. And we've seen the Jets get steamed up from that 4-point opening up to 5.5, and that's just right where it sits before we came on the air. Now, Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni, he's expected to continue to rest his starters as he's done so far in the entire preseason, while the Jets head coach, Robert Saleh, is expected to continue playing most of his starters, okay? The total hasn't budged off the opener of 33.5. Both teams are 2-0 to the under so far this preseason. Now, when both teams missed the postseason the previous year, which these two teams did, the under is at 62% in the preseason, going as far back as 2014. So as you look at this particular game, the pros are on the New York Jets. They're laying the 5.5 points on this game, and also they're on the under in this game as well. In the first game we talked about, Indianapolis against Detroit. Indianapolis is a 2-point favorite. The pros are on the Detroit Lions in that game. So we have one more game to talk about, and that's Pittsburgh against Carolina, and we're going to do that right after we take our second break. So just a reminder that you're in the sports wagering zone, and like I said, each spot, just about a minute. So if that's the case, like I said, we will be back in 1 minute. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening. We're coming to you live from Denver, Colorado, the Mile High City, right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as most of your major podcast platforms as well, such as Google, Spotify, Apple Podcast. I'm not going to go on and on. We're also on Blackjack TV as well. So anyway, before the show started, before the show started, but the first part of the show, we kind of bring you up to date in case you just tuned in a little late. You missed the first part of the show. We're not talking any baseball today. It's strictly talking about the NFL games for tonight, and we're also going to take a look at some games in college football for tomorrow as well, trying to get an idea as to which direction and what the thinking is by some of the sportsbook directors in Las Vegas. If you missed this earlier, we talked about the Eagles against the Jets. In this particular game, the pros are on the New York Jets, laying the 5.5 points against the Eagles. And before that, we talked about the Colts against the Detroit Lions. In this game, the pros are on the underdog, the Detroit Lions, getting those 2 points. The Colts are favored by 2 points in that game. Started out as 4, dropped down to 2. So kind of give you an idea as to what the direction is doing and which direction it's going. So we got one more game to talk about, and that's the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're 3-0. playing the Carolina Panthers, who are 0-2 this season, this preseason, I should say. The Steelers, well, they rolled throughout the preseason so far. First, they beat the Cowboys 16-3, Hall of Fame game, you remember. They were 1-point favorites in that game, so they covered. Now, they took down their in-state group, the Eagles, 24-16. They were a 1-point road dog, okay, so they covered there. And then they beat the Lions 26-20, but in that game, they were 7-point home dogs. And of course, they did not cover in that game. So as far as the betting is concerned, 2-1, not a bad start for the Pittsburgh Steelers so far. Now on the other side, the Panthers, who haven't won yet, they lost to the Colts 21-18. They were 3-point road dogs, okay? And then they got crushed by the Ravens. Remember that game, 20-3. They didn't cover because they were 3.5-point home dogs. Now, tonight's line opened with Carolina, a 2.5-point home favorite. Now, Mike Tomlin is expected to rest most of the starters, and Dwayne Haskins is going to really get to do most of the quarterbacking as far as that is concerned. Now, on the other side, Matt Rule is expected to play a lot of his starters, including some of the extended time behind center for their new starting quarterback, Sam Darnold. Because as a result of that, we've seen the pros come in on Carolina, pushing the Panthers up from a 2.5 to a 3.5-point favorite. Before we came on the air, we saw that some shops have even gone up to 4, and even some of them have gone as high as 4.5. So you can see in which direction that is going. Money is coming in on Carolina. The pros have also targeted the under in this game. They drove the total down. It was at 36.5. It's down to 35. The unders, well, so far they're at 73% this season. But of course, the unders have been doing very well. And we've been also talking about the unders who are at 37. Okay. When the over-under total is 37 or higher, they even do better than that. So, but as unders totally, they're still at 73%. So you got one more week to go. If you've been playing the unders from the beginning, you have done very, very well. And once again, just to remind you, in this game, the Steelers and the Panthers, again, the pros in this game are on the Panthers, primarily because, Matt Rule, who's the coach of the team, he's expected to play most of his starters, okay, especially Sam Darnold, who they acquired from the Jets. They kind of feel he's going to come in and do most of the game. And because of that, once that announcement came out, the line moved from being a 2.5-point favorite for Carolina up to 3.5, and now it's as high as 4.5 at some of the houses as well. So that's something to kind of think about. Steelers against the Panthers. The pros are on the Carolina Panthers. To review once again the other two games we talked about, Colts against the Lions. The Colts are a 2-point favorite in this game. The pros are on the Detroit Lions. As far as the Eagles and the New York Jets are concerned, in this game as well, the pros are on the New York Jets. And, of course, we just got finished talking about the Steelers and the Panthers. In this game, the pros are on the Panthers. So that kind of gives you to take a look at. And we looked at the line movement of the game, kind of give you an idea as to which direction the money is going. And, of course, that once we figure out which direction that is, that's really an indication of which direction the pros are going. So that's why we bring that to your attention. So we're going to take our final break, and when we come back, we're going to take a look at a report from Chris Andrews. Chris is the South Point Sportsbook director. He's been a bookmaker for, at least 30 years, I would think, in Las Vegas. It's been legal there, so you could be a bookmaker. You could say that, because it's legal. If you're trying to say you were a bookmaker in New York for 30 years, you'd have to start thinking, those first 25 years were probably doing something else. So anyway, that's the story. We're going to take a look and see what his thoughts are about tomorrow's college football games. And once again, to get a hold of us, it's not very hard. And we really love to hear from you. We want to know what you're thinking about. What's your thoughts? How do you like this show? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Can we make some changes that might make it more likable for you? Be more than happy to do that for you. Just simply send us an email. Send it to the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. Even if you have any questions about something, be happy to explain it as best as we can. And if we get enough questions about a certain subject, we'll talk about it on the air as well. So let's get that third break out of the way. As usual, like we say, each break is 1 minute long. So we'll be back talking college football right after this 1 minute announcement. And welcome back. You're back in the Sports Wagering Zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening. Totally appreciate you listening to the show. We really do. I look forward to doing the show every day, 7 days a week. I have fun doing it. I hope you have fun listening to it as well. So we talked about the NFL games on tap for tonight, and we'll go over those games once again before the show is over. But now Chris Andrews is the sportsbook director of South Point in Las Vegas. Like I said, he's been a bookmaker in Nevada for over 30 years, okay? He kind of knows what he's talking about, and he comes out with the report that he does with the Vegas Sports Information Network. So we're kind of tapping into that to try to give you some thoughts and ideas as to how the bookmakers are thinking about the college games coming up for tomorrow. Now, even though he started taking bets on this weekend's games back in July, okay, there really hasn't been a lot of betting interest compared to some other options that have been made available to you guys as betting. So he's saying that he says, I expect that to pick up on Saturday when everybody realizes that there are national TV games, okay? So what he's saying, he wants to run through what's been happening in the market so far. And here's what he expects to happen between now and your first date of 2021 college football. So here we go for tomorrow. Nebraska, a 7-point favorite. 55 is the over-under, playing at Illinois. Now, he says that I opened Nebraska at 8.5 back in July. The pros bet that all the way down. So the pros bet on Illinois because of that number. They bet it all the way down to 7 and even to 6.5 at one point. And then the money started coming in on Nebraska. So the number went back up to 7. Now, I see some stray 6.5s floating around elsewhere in the marketplace. We know the wise guys really like Illinois at 7.5 or better. I don't expect the public to come in hard on Nebraska as a 7-point favorite. Yes, recreational bettors generally prefer favorites, but Nebraska hasn't been playing well enough under head coach Scott Frost to trust anybody laying a touchdown as the number. So he says, I've been watching the money line closely in this one. About midway through every season, we look back at the first week and ask ourselves, can you believe this or that was an underdog in that game? Well, Illinois is the cheapest dog this week. New head coach Brett Bielema has a proven track record in the Big Ten, and he says, I currently have Nebraska at a minus 260 on the money line to win the game. So you're risking $260 to win 100 or anything in that ratio, of course. Illinois, on the other hand, is plus 220 to spring that upset. So in this situation, you're risking 100 to win $220. Okay. Now, there have been some sharp nibbles at plus 220, but not enough to move the line in any direction. But he says, let's see what happens between now and kickoff. The Nebraska Illinois total opened at 55. It didn't move until Thursday afternoon when it dropped to 54.5 after some under bets started coming in. So not much to report on the over-unders yet in this game. The other game he talked about is Hawaii at UCLA. Hawaii is 17.5-point underdog to UCLA. 68 is the over-under. Now, he says that I opened UCLA at 17.5 as a favorite. Bettors took the points, but then they laid back some when he dropped the line down to 17. I see a few 18s out there, so I think the number will start heading upward, okay? The pros that like the favorite are in at 17. He says, I haven't seen any appetite for the underdog as now. We'll see how far the public lifts Chip Kelly's side. Dog lovers may buy back just before kickoff time. So he says, I don't have a sense yet if that would be at plus 18.5 or maybe 19 or more. There aren't any key numbers between 17.5 and 19.5. So again, those are Chris Andrews' thoughts on that game. Now, one more game, UTEP against New Mexico State. That's at 9:30 on Saturday night. UTEP being a 10-point favorite at 59 as the over-under at New Mexico State. This one, he says, really surprised me. He says, I opened the game UTEP as a 7-point favorite. The pros bet the game all the way up to being a 10-point favorite where it is right now. They're even laying the 10 points. I've seen a 10.5 pop up in the market as well, but I haven't moved there yet. He says, I understand that New Mexico State is bad and they didn't play any games last year because of COVID. But this is UTEP. How can UTEP on the road be a hill to die on? Okay, so that's the thinking there. The pros have made their stand, and I'll likely be rooting for the ugly home dog. It's not like the public is going to bet New Mexico State in a game that's not on TV, that's for sure. There's just no way to balance the books here without creating a big middle. Quite a bit of play on the total. He opened it at 54.5. It's all the way up to 59 based on the action that's coming in by the pros. They bet it up. The public doesn't bet over-unders this far in advance. So the pro combination of UTEP and the over is telling you that pro money expects a big offensive performance from the Miners at UTEP. So again, those are the thoughts and ideas, and we tell you about it to let you know what he's thinking. Not only what he's thinking, but if you kind of can conceptualize the thought process here, the way they move lines and why they move lines. It's very critical. So you can see when a line is starting to move in a certain direction, you want to know whether you want to hold back and wait or whether you want to jump in here before it gets out of whack for you. So Chris Andrews, like I said, He's the sportsbook director at South Point in Vegas. Been doing this for over 30 years. Got to listen to what this guy has to say because you know what? He really knows what he's talking about. He's been there a long time. He's a survivor. He's made it through all this time. He really knows what he's doing. And again, this little vignette I told you about was strictly his words that he in a column that he writes for the Vegas Sports Information Network. So kind of letting you know, kind of bring you in on that as well. So once again, let's take a look at the 3 football games for tonight. You got the Colts against the Lions. Colts are a 2-point favorite. The pros are on the Lions in this game. Between the Eagles and the Jets are a 5.5-point favorite in this game. They're the choice of the pros as well. And the Steelers against the Panthers. Panthers are now a 4.5-point favorite, and they're the choice of the pros as well. So you're looking at the Lions, the Jets, and the Panthers as the play if you're following in which direction the pros are going. So that's the story for today. I'm sorry they won't have any baseball, but we'll try to get back into the swing of college football and also pro football. So we talked about some college games coming up tomorrow, and we talked about the 3 games on tap for tonight. So once again, it's Friday. It's the end of the week. I want to thank you very much for listening. We've been coming to you live from Denver, Colorado, right here, the Mile High City, on the Sports Information Network. Keep in mind one thing, Saturday and Sunday, we come on at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Monday through Friday, we come on at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Saturday and Sunday. So have a great Friday. The week is over. Time to have some fun, relax, have some good times with your friends or family. I hope you have a great Friday. And if you're going to be betting, hey, I hope you have a profitable Friday just as well. And if you don't follow us on the weekend, I hope you have a very happy weekend. And if you're going to be betting anything this weekend, I also hope you have a big profit margin there as well. So until tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening. We'll be back on the Sports Information Network and most major platforms tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Goodbye, everybody.